G'day guys, my name is Caleb, otherwise known as the Critic Kebab, and today I'm reviewing Frozen 2. The highly anticipated sequel to the 2013 Disney blockbuster has entered the world, and it's fighting an uphill battle of living up to the cultural impact that the original made around the world. The same cast return, and the characters Anna, Elsa, Olaf, Sven, and Kristoff go on a quest to an enchanted forest to hopefully learn more about Elsa's powers. And on their journey, they discover new things about themselves and the mysterious land they inhabit. I think this is a completely adequate sequel. Coming into this movie, I was expecting something new and interesting that challenged the characters in unique ways, but instead, I got a more straightforward adventure with these fun-loving characters. It is important to remember that this is a kids movie aimed specifically for that audience, so I'm not mad or anything, but I just wasn't as intellectually challenged as I would have liked to have been. In saying that, I did enjoy myself whilst I was in the theatre. The songs are good and very well performed, but they aren't as impressive or emotionally potent as the songs from the original. The best part of the film though is the sisterhood between Anna and Elsa, and their loving relationship was really endearing, and it carries most of the drama in the story. I love that Elsa is still a very insecure and cautious protagonist, but she steps up and is brave when she needs to be, whilst Anna is that adorable and caring sister that really cares for the ones around her and the kingdom. Now, what they did with Kristoff in this film started off amazing and had great potential, but ended up being quite bland. Kristoff has a specific objective throughout the film, but because he doesn't accomplish it straight away, it requires him to continue trying, and towards the beginning of the film, it was very enjoyable, and I was expecting them to delve more deeply into this aspect, but unfortunately, they don't go anywhere with it. As a result, Kristoff became one of the least interesting characters, and his song in the film was definitely my least favourite. Now, Olaf has a much bigger role here, and for the most part, he is an enjoyable presence, with some really funny moments, even though there are a couple times where he makes jokes at the most inappropriate times. But I must say, and it is undeniable, but this is a drop-dead gorgeous film. The animation is spectacular, and the use of colours and lighting is fantastic. Also, the expressions in the characters' faces, as well as their body language, was so believable and realistic. I was blown away by the level of detail in the animation. It was very impressive. But despite the movie looking great, both the songs and musical score being really good, there isn't much else that stands out. Frozen 2 is a worthy follow-up with enough heart, action, and music to entertain you at a surface level, but unfortunately, it doesn't go any deeper than that. It doesn't quite recapture the show-stopping feel of the original, but it is still an enjoyable Disney adventure film, so I do think it's worth watching, especially if you've got kids and want to keep them entertained for an hour and a half. Alright, that's my spoiler-free part of the review done. Now, if you have seen the movie and want to hear some of my thoughts on the spoilery moments, stick around, because now I'm going to get into my spoiler chat, and you'll also get my letter grade for the film at the end of the review. So, the first thing that I want to bring up in the spoiler part of the review is the concept of these elemental spirits. The opening prologue was interesting enough to set up this story, but this elemental idea has been done so many times, and I was expecting something a little bit different. Don't get me wrong, the cute little fire lizard and the massive earth giants were really cool, but I was slightly underwhelmed by this whole story element. However, the one story element I was not disappointed in at all was the family dynamic between our crew of characters. Like I said before, the relationship between Elsa and Anna was beautiful, and I thought the back and forth between Anna and Kristoff was entertaining, despite Kristoff's character being quite one-dimensional. The scene where they all play charades was incredible, because it did an excellent job of quickly establishing this well-knit family dynamic, whilst also setting up each of the characters' call to action. Elsa obviously has a literal call to action, but it also sets up that Anna is looking after her sister and accepting more responsibility, Kristoff with his one simple objective of proposing marriage to Anna, with the comforting support of Sven, and of course Olaf, who throughout this film is developing his emotional state more and more. I thought his song about things making sense when you're older was also quite amusing. But after Elsa awakens the enchanted forest and they go on their quest, it leads us to the Northuldra people, and this is where the story strands start to become separated. Elsa being called by this voice and seeking out its meaning was the main story thread, and for me was the most interesting aspect of the narrative, due to the mystery and intrigue element, so that's where most of my attention was being invested. But unfortunately, the story separates our characters and we are forced to go through scenes that just aren't as interesting as the A-plot. For example, Kristoff has a few scenes and then he has his one song and then just disappears from the plot until the very end. Anna and Olaf are forced to go on a separate adventure, which ultimately leads to the destruction of the bridge, but it just wasn't as interesting as it could have been, in my opinion. However, I do want to give a special shout out to the scene where Anna and Olaf are floating down the river and they float past the rock giants. This was an effective scene that successfully created tension and put me on the edge of my seat. It was a great oh shit moment. But eventually Elsa does reach her destination and we enter this magical history realm type place known as Atahallan. And this is where we get more information about the grandfather and his betrayal. The song was great, the visuals were stunning, and the plot twist was rather generic, but effectively did its job for the story. But the visual storytelling in this sequence is what stands out. You can see Elsa goes through both an emotional and a physical transformation while she's here. This is obviously very similar to the Let It Go moment from the first film. Now this all eventually culminates in the destruction of the dam, and you think as a result it will destroy Arendelle, but instead we get that epic shot of Elsa riding the water spirit horse and stopping the flood from submerging the kingdom. This was a good climax to the film that left me satisfied. Of course, Kristoff proposes to Anna and she says yes. Anna takes up the mantle of Queen of Arendelle, and Elsa takes up her responsibility as the fifth element, the union of all four spirits. The screenplay did a good job of wrapping up all the story threads, and Anna and Elsa end up where they're ultimately best suited. But I will be very interested to see if they do make a third Frozen movie. It doesn't leave anything open-ended, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Overall, this could have been a better sequel, but it also could have been a lot worse. But you can definitely find enjoyment in this movie, even though it doesn't live up to the 2013 original. I'm going to give Frozen 2 a B-. Those are my thoughts on Frozen 2. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching the video. If you did enjoy it, please go down and hit that like button. Of course, comment below any of your thoughts on the film. Do you agree or disagree with anything I've said? And if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and help support the channel. It would be really appreciated. As always, thank you so much for watching guys, and I'll hopefully see you in another video.